I'm going to show this because the original egg breaker is with us. Break an egg. And there we are. Sartorial splendor from academia. Good morning, Mark Mabey.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
I'm not too bad at all the better for seeing you and your sunny disposition.
Good, and you, Keith. Always lovely to see you. You know that.
Good stuff. And we made an impression last week. People are delighted that we're getting into the educational side of things. And I know that you're developing an even better program with Suzanne, who is like a blue-arsed fly. Keeping her in one place is a real problem. But if anybody can do it, you'll do it.
Yeah, I have to say, pinning her down takes some doing, but I think we managed to arrange a slot where we're gonna sort out what we'll do for you for next week, and we'll do hopefully a really entertaining session next week, looking at the differences between the good old UK and what's happening over the pond. So should be good.
Yeah, excellent. We're looking forward to it. But tell me, Mark, I mean, there is a serious side to education this morning, is there not? With the suggestion that Labour are going to cut VAT relief to private schools, which cause some problems. I mean, I wonder if you can explain that to our viewership, what that means.
Yeah, most schools are VAT free. And it does mean particularly to the smaller schools, particularly village schools. So I live in a place called Penkell in Stoke-on-Trent. It's got a very small junior primary school, and I'm a governor there. And it really, they do live from day to day in many ways. And by the time they've paid the teachers' salaries, and by the time they've paid council tax, etc., business tax actually. They don't have a lot to play about with, and with the increasing number of young people that have got special educational needs, dyslexia, etc., the costs for schools running are getting bigger and bigger, and so the VAT thing could be very significant to them, and hopefully that will make a difference.
What would the impact be if they introduce this?
I think if they introduce it, it will obviously reduce the amount of money that will be available for very important things like special educational needs. So bringing in specialist teachers to support young people, and it's become even more important since COVID. A lot of young people that went through COVID for that whole year that were being home taught didn't have those specialists input, and so now without that. Their attainment levels will be less, and already there have been lots of examples of a number of students or young people that aren't attending school has gone up quite significantly since COVID.
Now, is the pundits are trying to turn it into a class war situation? Do you see it that way?
Yeah, absolutely, and I always get really infuriated when, particularly education, there's lots of things, we've got all this stuff rubbish about transport, but whether HS2 happens or not isn't really that significant to most of us, to be really honest with you. Whereas education is absolutely critical, and giving young people that education is so important. So yeah, I feel very, very strongly about it.
Yeah. Is there anything that your profession can do? I mean, can the various associations fight back? Are they willing to fight back? Are they going to fight back?
Yeah, I think that particularly the head teachers will, but I think that all the unions will fight against this sort of thing. If anything that sort of takes money away from mainstream education is really important. But it's all a political game. At the moment, Keith, I don't know if you know, but the government introduced T levels, which are these new technical A levels that they've introduced, and they're a new, just a mix up of old qualifications they've put together, called them technical A levels. And for me in higher education, they literally just introduced or are about to introduce something called higher technical qualifications. But it just adds another complexity to the whole mix, and particularly for employers. They must be so confused. And this is the conservative.
Yeah.
So it's just a ping pong match, isn't it, Keith?
Yes, absolutely. Now, you, I mean, I worked with you, and what a great pleasure it is to work with you. You're innovative, you're creative, you're a thinker. You also are larger than life. Have you ever thought of going into politics?
I don't know if I did think of running for the local council here, because I live in, unlike beautiful Lewis, I live in Stoke-on-Trent, and we're one of the councils that are possibly going to go bankrupt with £28 million deficit. So I think it needs a bit of level-headed thinking, and there are lots of problems in Stoke, but it's a really lovely place. I've got my mug here. Hey up, Doc. It's a real
Hey up.
Hey up, Doc. But for people who haven't been to Hey up, Doc, who haven't been to Stoke, it has got lots of problems. We've got lots of homeless. We've got lots of, Stoke is the biggest monkey dust. Have you heard of monkey dust, Keith?
What's monkey dust?
Monkey dust. It's not something you go. Woo, 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 woo. It's not that. It's a chemical. It's a chemical drug that people take, and they smoke it, and it makes them hallucinate. And only 2 weeks ago, I drove into Stoke, and there were police cars, and I thought, what was it? And a guy was halfway up a street lamp, standing on a plinth, and he was on this monkey dust, and it makes them hallucinate. It's a bit like me most of the time, Keith.
Is it a serious problem in Stoke?
Yeah, massive. It really is, and it's very easy to come by. It's if you can believe it, I don't exactly look like a monkey dust taker, but I actually got stopped last week by a guy who said, "Do you want a 10 bag?" And I didn't even know what a 10 bag was, but a 10 bag is a bag of this monkey dust, and you put it in a little pipe and smoke it. And I gracefully declined and walked on. But yeah, it's a big problem. And I think I don't know whether it's a big problem down south, but certainly up here in Stoke, it's big because it's so cheap.
Yeah. Well, of course, in Brighton, which is only 5 miles away from us, it's a very big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all the big, any city seems to have the problems of that. But I suspect Brighton have big issues. Yeah.
Now, it's not fair to ask you this, but since Mirador is a television station of opinion, why do you think we've got a generation that tries to seem to hide from reality by taking such a variety of drugs?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because it's been so much on the increase. I know we've got fairly high unemployment here in Stoke. But sort of recreational drugs, back in the 60s, 70s, I know people took LSD and the such like, but it was just a sort of a party thing that people did every now and then. But this, for a lot of people, is daily. I think in Stoke, I can only speak for Stoke, but it is because people don't have jobs. But a lot of them don't want jobs. I went down to the local supermarket, and they got a massive big advert up for about 30 posts in the local supermarket. And I know the manager, and he said, we just can't recruit people. And they're paying quite good money. And there's something about this ethos of not wanting to work. And, once people get onto universal credit and they've got a flat, to actually getting them back into work. and getting them back into that ethos of working. Keith, you're an amazing guy. You've worked how many years, Keith? I won't embarrass you, but every morning, Keith, you're up at the crack of dawn, and you're a fantastic example of someone with that work ethic, even after a time when most people would have put their hat up and retired. You've carried on, and I think we need a bit more of your spirit, Keith, a bit more of that fighting spirit.
But if I quit, I wouldn't be able to talk to lovely people like you. I mean, you were a big part of my life for about 3 or 4 years, and very influential. I mean, you had a big impression upon me, and I always take that and try to blend it with what I've got, because I'm basically a journalist, as you know, and a broadcast journalist. But those 3 or 4 years that I spent with you, and we used to have these early morning chats and really explore different things and try to innovate. It was difficult to bring some of our fellow academics along with us, but nonetheless, I mean, we really that gave me a great deal of pleasure. But tell me this: can education, in your view, change this ethos of not wanting to work, of not wanting to get up in the morning?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've most probably got to look at doing things in a different sort of way. And in fact, I'm involved in a project at the moment, just looking to raise some venture capitalists with 2 young guys actually, to open something called the School of Innovation, which is, instead of the traditional teaching and being in the classroom, being in a lecture and being lectured to, that it's very much work based. So you have excellent people like you, Keith, journalists coming in to talk to the students. They would go and spend time with journalists out in the field. They'd spend time in the press office. They'd spend time in the printing, and they spend very little time sitting in lectures. In fact, they spend no time in lectures, because there wouldn't be such a thing. It would be all work based. Right. So they're work ready and they're already doing it. And then the problem is sitting in a lecture theatre is great. It does great things. And I wouldn't necessarily want that to stop, but I think we need something different now. Yeah. And I think something that is more the things we used to talk about, Keith.
Yes, actually, let's continue to talk about it, because I try very hard to get students in here, and most of them come from academia, and they really don't want to know. No. They don't believe that being in television is anything other than sitting in front of a camera and being a star. Yeah. But it's quite different, of course. But 2 things. One, will you, on a weekly basis, keep us up to date with this project? Give us an update each week so that we understand what's happening and we can see the progress and we can be supportive to you. And secondly, as of now, why don't you make an appeal for funds?
Yeah, that would be great. It will be one of the first actual universities. It will be a university, although it's called the School of Innovation. We will be going for university status. There's only been 2 other universities since the 1960s, since the establishment of the University of Warwick, that have been established. So it will take time. All these things take a lot of time. They're looking to raised about £750,000 so far. Looking to raise a couple of £1 million. Obviously, get it up and running, etc. We're looking to set one centre up in Manchester, and then perhaps to have a set of satellites. But we won't need lots of buildings. It won't be based on research. It will be based on very practical elements. It won't be red brick. But the red bricks can do all that. But this will be very much about innovation, bringing new ideas in, but making young people, and also having mature students coming in, but making them really work ready.
Right. Now, Mirador is small, but it punches well above its weight. But we're also situated in a very wealthy part of the country, of course. So next week, why don't you actually prepare a little something to make an appeal for funds?
Sure. Sure.
Whether in fact you'll get any, I don't know, but it's not going to hurt to make that appeal because
Sure.
I've found that people if they like a project, they don't care where in the country it is.
Sure.
So it's not going to hurt.
That'd be great. In fact, I'm working with two young guys in their early 20s. One who actually went to university, another one who hasn't been to university, had a number of heart problems, sort of transformed his life. So I might invite one of those to come and join me or join us on that. They're quite an inspirational couple of young lads, very articulate, and perhaps to listen a little bit about what they've got to say would be useful.
Absolutely, no, hold them along. Strangely enough, it's funny. I try to educate people about television a little bit, but the role of a producer in television is one that is very powerful. As long as it's within the broad concept of what I've set as the concept, because I happen to be the boss at the moment, people can really devise what they want. So not only in working with Suzanne, but work with the young chaps, and you can do on this program exactly what you want to further the cause, to explain to people what you're doing, how it's going to work. It's all good for television. It's all good for people, but I think it would be good for you. So yes, you devise just exactly what you want.
Thanks, Kit. That would be really good. And as I say, I'll bring Will Hill on. He's quite an inspirational young guy, 25, quite inspirational in the way he can articulate things. And as I say, he hasn't been to education, he hasn't been in higher education, but he's passionate about this area. And he's working with an entrepreneur, actually a multi-million entrepreneur who's pump priming this project. Which they've been looking at. They've been working on for about a year, but they asked me if I get involved in order to give them that bit of extra clout. So having a great opportunity of being able to promote some of that on Mirador would be really fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're very, very happy to be involved and help in any way that we can. And they couldn't choose anyone better than you, because having worked with you, I know that you actually mix very successfully. You mix the academic and the practical. So you're an ideal choice for this project.
Yeah, I think it's a great concept. And when they first approached me, I thought a new university, impossible. But actually, there have been two other. In fact, Dyson opened. I don't know if you know, but Dyson opened a university in London, and there's an engineering university called Teddy. But they're the two new universities. They haven't got many students, but we think we could recruit lots of students because it would be very work-based. And innovation can mean anything, Keith. It can mean science, it can mean journalism, it can mean anything. So I think it's a really interesting concept.
Yes. Now, are you going to have as a symbol the sign of the hen?
Yes, I think I should have the sign of the hen. There's only one laying at the moment, a blue egg. I'm hoping to meet up with you for a drink. In fact, Keith, I'm always a bit jealous that you're down at the White Hart with your pints. So I actually brought my trusty hip flask with me.
Ah, yeah.
Ready for our meetup. So it will be great.
Splendid. Now, Mark, I'd like to change the scene just a little bit. You mentioned that you've got a little country school in your village. I didn't know that these things still existed. Would you describe to us what these little country schools are like and how they operate, and how many people, how many students, and so on?
Yeah, sure. They operate. They still get a government. They still get government allowance, and there's about 60 students, 60 young people at the school, primary school. But when they need to do anything extra, there's never extra money. It's purely dependent on a good PTA, a Parents Teachers Association, and donations and people doing things. And I've managed to get there's a big coach company here. I've managed to get the coach company on board, and they take them for trips to Blackpool, and in fact they're off to Blackpool next week. various things that they wouldn't normally be able to do. And you know, they're at the moment they're just being all consumed by these academies now, which are these multi academies, but they lose all that individuality. They get run by, in my opinion, you know, faceless chickens, as it were.
Yes.
And you know, it then becomes about it being a business. And as much as I realise education is a business, it particularly with primary school, it's about making those young people really enthused, really excited. And once again, they can't just sit in a classroom and do that. We've managed to link up with Staffordshire University, and they've got a forest school, which means they can go into the forest. They can do different skills, do a bit of camping, do a bit of looking for insects, looking at plants, those sorts of things. And many inner city kids never have that opportunity to do that. And certainly here in Stoke, you know, I took a couple of my chickens up to the school, and some of them had never seen chickens. And I bring it on next week. I've got one chicken, it lays blue eggs. And one of the little lads said to me, "Hey up, has it got blue yolk, lad?" So it's only got blue yolk, but it's those sort of opportunities. But they're going, Keith, as these big multi academies come in, and I think there's something about keeping small. Small is beautiful.
Is there any way of encouraging a sector where these small schools would exist? I mean, is it possible, for instance, a sort of a hybrid where they would obviously be under the cloak of the state, but be in a special category which would keep them alive?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. You know, I think the problem is that they often, you know, the multi academy are fantastic, and they've kept many schools open, but they do take out that individuality of the school, and they do then become part of a sort of an amorphous mass. If they could keep their individuality, and the head has, you know, I think the heads have an element of autonomy, but they still have to fit within the overall business model. And I cringe when people talk about business and education, because it's, you know, it's not. You know, at universities it might be different, but in primary schools and secondary schools it really should be about young people having fun, learning, wanting to go to school, not dragging them to school, but wanting to go to school because it's an exciting place to go to. So yeah, I think there's definitely a place for that, and although I think a number of these smaller schools are being absorbed into these multi academies.
Yes. Well, before I went on to grammar school, I went to a local school. My hometown was Sutton Coldfield, and I lived on the edge of it. And there was a school there, which was just a boys' school, and there we were, little darlings from the age of 4, and being whacked with a cane. By the way, people think it's uncivilized.
I know, people wouldn't believe it now. I always laugh, and I had a physics teacher, and at that time, you know, young people wouldn't have not realised it, but you know, used to write on the board with that thing called chalk. They used to have a board rubber, and this physics teacher used to chuck this board rubber at you. And one day it hit me on the head. I got this massive big egg bruise on the head. No one said anything, you know.
I mean, I was treated much the same, and I can remember the shock the first time I was told to put my hand out.
Yeah,
not me. It can't be happening to me.
This kid.
That's right. I mean, I do understand that there is that sort of thing. It wouldn't wash now, but I don't think it hurt me at all. And looking at you, I don't think it hurt you either.
No, not at all. I've been looking, Keith. I'm going to try and find it. I've got a low tech piece of equipment called a slide rule. Do you remember using those?
Oh yes, slide rule.
And I've still got one actually. It must be 50 years old now. But it's I take that sometimes into the classroom and say, what do you think this is? And they say, what? So I said, yeah, you could do multiplication, division. And they're all used to these things, aren't they? That does.
Yes, that's right. That's
does
right.
everything.
Well, I just had a go this morning because I think that the computer as such has got out of hand, particularly with social media. I spent half the night last night getting verification for a password, which then asked for verification, and in the end said, "I'm sorry, we can't give you a new password." I mean, what the hell?
But it's barking mad. It is absolutely. I had just a total aside. I went for a meal to an Italian restaurant last week, and there was a young couple sat at the table next to me, and they did not say a single word to each other for an hour and a half. They were on these things all the time.
Yeah, I know.
And I said to them, what on earth? Why aren't they talking? Why are they? I said, do you think they're saying, "Are you going to have a coffee?" Or shall we have profiteroles on this? It's just total madness.
Well, the thing that worries me with a lot of this communication by these phones is that people won't even know what a profiterole is.
No,
the English language will shrink.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think there's a place for it. I'm really, I like you. We use it every day. I don't necessarily enjoy. I much more enjoy face-to-face activity, but it's part of life, and we have to get on with it.
Well, I have to balance our thinking because we couldn't do this if it wasn't for the strides in technology. You may be interested to know that about 5 years ago, I started this station by sitting outside Cafe Nero at 5:30 in the morning and nobbling anybody that I knew and interviewing them on my phone. And it came about because we were struggling in trying, because we had to use big cameras, big edit stuff, and so on and so forth. And it's very expensive and very costly and a really uphill struggle. And our lady in New York, not Suzanne, but Melissa Conti, who is a journalist, and Melissa said, Facebook has come out with a new scheme, but it's only available to Hollywood stars. I'll keep you informed. And then she phoned me one day and said, they made it available to everybody. You can now broadcast on your phone. And that's where we started. And now it's fairly sophisticated, as you can see.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really good.
But having said that, we don't let it take over.
No.
I mean, you know what I'm like, tongue in cheek. I say it's the return of the Triffids. The Triffids want to take us over again, and they're watching for mankind to be taken over by computers. That's in their plans.
They're not going to do that. No, it's absolutely right. No, it is
Mark,
amazing.
we've been on for 29 minutes and 20 seconds, and it's been an absolute delight as always.
As ever, Keith.
We'll look forward to seeing you next week, along with your young men, if they're available.
Good.
And,
Yeah,
and let's work closely together, because we're here to work with you, and we look forward to doing that. I mean, whatever else, I may be. I was going to say a wanker, but I won't use that word. But I do feel very keenly about our community and how we can make a contribution. And with your help, we're making a real contribution. So very grateful and look forward to seeing you, but also your sartorial splendor and your huge wit.
And it's lovely to be with you, Keith.
See you next week.
Next week, Keith. Bye.
Take care. There we go. Mark Mabey. I didn't mean that. Take it back. We need to well, anyway, there's a gentleman who was going to come back here, but I don't know if he is. I'm going to say toodle pip temporarily. I'll come back to say goodbye because I'm going to go and look for him. Having invited him, I feel that we should actually fulfill that promise. Okay, here we go.